Good afternoon everybody. The topic today we are going to discuss is about the properties of solids. Before touching the actual subject properties of solids, let us know we have already studied in your previous chapters the effects of forces on different materials. What are the how the force affects a body? There are two effects of forces we generally come across. When a force acts on a body, the body can change its position. That was studied according to your Newton's laws in the second chapter. And when number of forces are acting on a body, in spite of many forces acting on the body continues to be in a state of equilibrium or static condition. That topics we have we study in the third chapter, that is basics of statics. Now, under the action of force, there may be some changes happening in the body physically. That changes happening in a body under the action of the force is studied under the properties of solids. Solids, generally matter is classified into three different types based on the molecular arrangement and the intermolecular space between the molecules. The force of attraction between the molecules is very high in solids compared to liquids, and then it is least in the molecules of a gas. The molecules are arranged to its lattice in solids. They have very regular arrangement. They are fixed to a lattice because of the large intermolecular space. The molecules are not allowed to move free in any direction. They are held together by the intermolecular forces. That can be shown in this slide, where the crystal lattice of some solids has been shown to you. For example, the first lattice is that of iron, chromium, etc. Second lattice is found in aluminium, nickel, gold, etc. And the third lattice we can see, hexagonal lattice, can be seen in tin, zinc, magnesium, cadmium, and so on. The next slide also shows us the different lattice arrangements of the solids, molecules in solids. Since the intermolecular space is more in solids and they have they are fixed to particular lattice points, the solids take definite shape and size, whereas the liquids, the molecules are not so closely spaced compared to solids. They are little far away, and the intermolecular space between molecules in liquids is not as high as that in solids. That is why liquids have definite size, but they do not have definite shape. They take the shape of the container into which you pour it. Examples for liquids is some liquids we come across in our daily life, like milk, water, kerosene, etc. Whereas if we come to the third group of matter, that is gases, in gases the molecules are free to move randomly in any direction. Hence, because the molecular space between them is less, is very more higher compared to solids and liquids. Hence, the gases neither have definite shape nor they have definite size. This can be seen in our next slide, that is matter exists in three states. Solids holds definite shape and they also have fixed volume. Liquids take the shape of the container, they are free, they have free surface, that is the liquids can flow, and the volume is fixed, that is the size is fixed. Whereas gases, the shape of the they take the shape of the container and also they occupy the volume of the container. They neither have definite shape nor definite size. They can expand to a small volume of gas can be compressed in a small cylinder, and the same amount of gas when let into a larger room it can expand to the extent of the room. That is why gases take the shape of the container and also the volume of the container. The figure down shows the conversion of solids to liquids and then liquid to gases. When solids are frozen or melted, freezed to very low temperatures, the when solids are melted, that is heated to certain temperatures, they melt to form liquids, and when liquids are further heated up, when they achieve the boiling point, they get converted to gas. For example, an ice cube when heated, it melts to form water, and when water is boiled, it boils to form steam. The steam is the gaseous form of water, and water is the liquid state of water, and ice is the solid state of water. This is a reversible process. A gas can be condensed to a liquid, and a liquid when frozen, it gets converted to solid. That is, steam can be frozen to liquids, and water when frozen further, it gets converted to ice, that is solid form of water. Yes, this is a reversible process. You can convert solid to gas or even gas to solid. Today's actual topic is about the properties of solids. We have already discussed the general properties of solids, that is, solids have definite shape and size, liquids have definite size but they do not have definite shape, they take the shape of the container, whereas gases neither have definite shape nor definite volume. Okay. The special property of solids, what we are going to discuss today, is something called elasticity. Now, in this picture, as we see, we have been shown certain materials. Two materials is about the rubber bands, and the two other material is springs, and the third one, the one below, is a dollar note. Now, in the first picture, we can see the rubber band is being applied some force, it is being stretched. Even in the second figure, the rubber band is being stretched, that is, we are applying some force on the body. So, when we apply some force on the body, we can see that the body is changing its shape and size. Once we remove this force, we observe that the body comes back to its original shape and size, as in the example of this rubber band. This property of the solids, that is regaining its original shape and size when we remove the force applied on the body, is called as elasticity. And the force what we are applying on the body, which changes the shape and size of the body, is called as the deforming force. It is called the deforming force because it is changing the shape and size of the object, hence we call it as the deforming force. It is deforming the shape, it is changing the shape and size. The deforming force per unit area of cross section of the body is calculated as a physical quantity called stress, or we define stress as the deforming force per unit area of cross section, per unit area of cross section of the body. Suppose if we take a wire fixed at one point and stretch it from the other end by applying some load, the wire extends, and once the load is removed, the wire tries to gain its original shape and size. This is because when a load or force is applied on the wire, the intermolecular spacing increases and the wire gets stretched, and when the load is removed, the wire regains its original shape and size because the molecules attract the other molecules and reduce the intermolecular space. Hence, some materials which regain their original shape and size on removing the deforming force, we call them as elastic materials, and the property we call it as elasticity. Some other materials as shown in this slide, that is, it is clearly mentioned as plasticity. That slide shows when a force is applied on the paper pin has changed its shape and size. Even on removing the force, it does not regain its original shape and size. Such materials we call them as plastic materials, or the property behaved by such materials we call it as plasticity. So, we define plasticity as the property of the material by virtue of which a material does not regain its original shape and size on removing the deforming force. When the deforming force is applied, it undergoes some changes, and once we remove the deforming force, it does not come back to its original shape and size. Such materials we call them as plasticity. In nature, neither a material is completely elastic, or neither it is nor it is completely plastic. Any material, any solid material in nature exhibits both the properties of plasticity and elasticity. For example, brittle metal like iron, it needs more force to compress, but small force is enough to stretch it. So, the elasticity is less in iron, whereas the compressive force is more in iron. If the same dimensional steel rod is taken, the stretching force is more in steel, whereas the compressive force is less in steel. It easily breaks even for a smaller force, whereas it needs very large forces to stretch a steel wire. So, if you take any material in nature, they exhibit both the properties of elasticity and plasticity. Even an elastic material, if it is continuously stretched using some deforming force, up to certain limit, the body will be able to regain its original shape and size, whereas after certain stress limits, the body will start undergoing permanent deformation. As to state an example, we all use a thread to dry our clothes. Initially, when we put some clothes over that, and daily it is a routine work, we dry the clothes on the wire and remove it in the evening once it is dry. We see that the wire comes back to its original shape and size when it is new. After certain time, over a certain period of time, it might be few days or few weeks or few months, the wire will start shrinking. It starts coming down and down. Even if we remove the clothes, it does not regain its original shape and size. So, in that there we see the body has started yielding from elasticity to plasticity. Initially it was elastic in nature. Due to the continuous force applied on the material starts becoming plastic. The deforming force experienced by the body per unit area of cross section is called as stress. So, stress is written as the force per unit area of cross section. Stress is force per unit area of cross section. So, the force experienced by the material per unit area of cross section, we call it as stress. Hence, the SI unit of stress will be, the SI unit of force we all know it is Newton, and the cross sectional area is measured in terms of meter square. So, the unit for stress is Newton per meter square. Now, the stress acting on a body can bring about three different changes in a material, and that depending on the three different changes brought about in the material, we can classify stress into three different types of stress. The changes generally when a force is applied on a wire, as an example, if a wire is fixed at one end and we apply some load at the other end, the load is calculated as M into G. The force what we are applying on the wire is calculated as M into G. When the load is applied on a wire, the length of the wire changes. So, the change incorporated here is length. Now, when we take a block of rubber and fix it at the bottom and apply some tangential force at the top face, the shape of the rubber block changes. Instead of a rectangular front view, we get a parallelogram view of the front face, and here the area is changing, area or shape is changing. If we take a example of a pillar, force is applied from all the sides and the change here is happening with respect to size or volume. So, depending on what changes is happening on the body when a force is applied on the body, stress is classified into 3 different types. If the length is changing under the action of the force, the stress is called as tensile stress. If the area or shape of the body is changing under the action of the force, then we call it as shear stress. And if the volume or the size of the material is changing under the action of the stress, we call it as volumetric stress. Volumetric stress. Whichever kind of stress it is, the stress has the SI unit Newton per meter square, and the dimensional formula for stress is M1 L1 T minus 2 divided by L2. So, you will get it as M1 L minus 1 T minus 2. So, the dimensional formula for stress is M1 L minus 1 T minus 2, and the SI unit is Newton per meter square. So, depending on the 3 different changes occurring in a body, that is whether the length is changing or area or shape is changing or size or volume is changing, stress is classified into 3 different types: tensile stress, shear stress and volumetric stress. So, the next physical quantity we have to discuss is the strain. If we compare the change in the length, shape or size to its original length, shape or size, we get a quantity called strain. So, strain is nothing but the ratio of change in shape or size to its original shape or size, to its original shape or size. So, we are comparing the changes with respect to its original shape or size. That physical quantity is called as strain. Since it is a ratio of change in shape or size to its original shape or size, whether we measure it in terms of meter, meter square or meter cube, depending on length, area or volume, the original dimensions are also measured with respect to the same units. So, the strain does not have any unit, also it does not have any dimensions. So, strain neither has units nor it has dimensions. So, depending on 3 different types of stress, again we can classify 3 different, we get 3 different types of strain. If we compare the change in length to its original length, as in the case of wire, we get a strain called tensile strain. If we compare the change in shape or area with respect to its original shape or area, we get a strain called shear strain. And whereas if we compare the change in size or volume with respect to its original size or volume, we get the volumetric strain. So, depending on 3 different types of stress, we get 3 different types of strain, and they are named the same: tensile strain, shear strain and volumetric strain. Whichever strain, again it neither has units nor it has any dimensions. It was the scientist Robert Hooke who studied the changes in different materials under the action of different types of forces or stress, and he, after studying many solids, he concluded the results as a law, and that law is called as Hooke's law, stated by Robert Hooke. This is a relationship between the stress and strain in a material. Suppose if a stress is acting on a body, it brings about some change, and that change is compared with its original dimensions, and that quantity is called strain. According to Robert Hooke, the stress is directly proportional to strain, or stress by strain is equal to a constant, and this constant is a constant of proportionality, and it is called modulus of elasticity. Modulus of elasticity. So, the units for modulus of elasticity will be same as stress, because stress has the units Newton per meter square and strain does not have any units. So, elasticity or modulus of elasticity will have the same SI units as stress, and also the dimensional formula for modulus of elasticity will be same as that of stress, that is m1 L minus 1 T minus 2. m1 L minus 1 T minus 2. So, since we have 3 different types of stress and 3 different types of strain, we also get 3 different moduli of elasticity. The 3 different moduli of elasticity are: the first moduli of elasticity is, it is called the Young's modulus. Young's modulus, it is either written as small y or q. Young's modulus is either written as, or the symbol for Young's modulus will be y or q. This Young's modulus is defined as the tensile stress, the ratio of tensile stress to the ratio of tensile strain. Because stress by strain is a constant, we call it as modulus of elasticity. The Young's modulus is called tensile stress by tensile strain, or we even write it as the ratio of tensile stress to tensile strain. If we take a wire, for example, the wire is fixed at one end and we apply some load at the other end. If m grams of weight or m kg is added at one end, the force acting on the wire is calculated as m into g. The force acting on the material is calculated as m into g. If the radius of the wire is r, and the original length of the wire is L, before applying the load, if the original length of the wire is L, on applying the load, if the length of the wire is changed to delta L, or the extension in wire is extension in wire when we apply a load of m kgs or a force of m into g newtons, then the extension in wire, if it is delta L, the stress acting on the body is force per unit area of cross section divided by tensile strain is change in length to original length of the wire, change in length to original length of the wire. So, the force here we have calculated as m into g. If a load of m grams is acting on the body, the force is calculated as m into g. For a wire of radius r, the cross sectional area is pi r square divided by delta L by L, or rearranging the terms we get it as mgl by pi r squared delta L, mgl by pi r squared delta L. Now, using screw gauge, we directly cannot measure the radius of the wire, we can only measure the diameter of the wire using screw gauge. Hence, if we write this diameter in radius in terms of diameter, we will get it as mgl by pi d squared by d by 2 whole square into delta L, that is equal to mgl by pi d squared delta L by 4. If we take this 4 to the numerator, we can also write the formula for Young's modulus as 4 mgl by pi d squared delta L, where m is the mass what we are attaching to the wire, g is the acceleration due to gravity, L is the original length of the wire, pi is 22 by 7, d is the diameter of the wire, and delta L is the change in length when a force F is acting on the wire. This is the formula to calculate the Young's modulus, and this is the one we use to calculate the Young's modulus using Searle's apparatus, 4 mgl by pi d squared delta L. The SI unit is Newton per meter square. That is the first type of modulus of elasticity, that is Young's modulus, the ratio of tensile stress to the ratio of tensile strain. The next type of modulus of elasticity is the rigidity modulus. Rigidity modulus. The symbol is n, small n, or even we write it as eta. The rigidity modulus is defined as the ratio of shear stress to shear strain. The ratio of shear stress to shear strain is defined as the rigidity modulus. So, n is equal to the ratio of shear stress to shear strain. Now, if we take an example of the rubber block, as I told in the earlier example, a rubber block it is fixed at its base, the base is fixed to the surface, we will apply a tangential force at the top face. So, the top face will shift. If this is the front view of the rubber cube or block, this top face will shift from its initial position and come to a position like this. So, the rectangular shape will change to parallelogram shape. So, the front view initially, which is rectangular in shape, under the action of the tangential force, it appears to be a rectangle, parallelogram. So, this angle through which the face is shifting, we call it as shear angle, and the distance through which it has shifted, if we write it as x, this is the height of the rubber block, then tan theta is written as opposite by adjacent, that is x by h. For very small values of theta or theta tending to 0, theta tending to 0, tan theta tends to theta itself. So, theta is equal to x by h, theta is equal to x by h. So, the shear stress acting on the body is calculated as the force acting on the top face. So, if the width of the face is w, this is the height and this is the length. So, the cross sectional area of the top face is w into L, w into L divided by the shear angle theta, or we even write it as F by w into L into theta, or F by w into L into theta we have calculated as x by h. So, we get the rigidity modulus as F into h divided by w into L into x. So, this is the formula to calculate the rigidity modulus with respect to a rubber cube acting under a tangential force F, whose dimensions are length of the cube is L, height of the cube is h and width of the cube is w. When a force F is acting on the top face, the front face shifts by an angle theta, and that angle is called shear angle, and the top face is shifted through a distance x. So, using this concept we get the formula for rigidity modulus as F into h divided by w into L into x. The last modulus of elasticity is the bulk modulus. The bulk modulus is defined as the ratio of volumetric stress by volumetric strain, volumetric stress by volumetric strain. So, if the stress acting on the body is F by A, the change volumetric strain is change in volume to its original volume. The bulk modulus represented by B or K is calculated as F into V by A into delta V, where F is the force acting on the body, V is the volume, original volume of the body, A is the cross sectional area of the body, and delta V is the change in volume when a force F is acting on the body. For example, when we squeeze a ball, if the original volume of the ball before squeezing it, if it is V, and after squeezing it has changed to a volume delta V, then the bulk modulus is calculated as F into V divided by A into delta V. This is the formula for bulk modulus, and again the whichever modulus of elasticity is the SI unit is Newton per meter square, and the dimensional formula is m1 L minus 1 T minus 2. And according to this Hooke's law, if a graph is plotted, graph of stress versus strain is plotted, as we are seeing in the slide here. A graph of stress is plotted against strain. Stress is taken on the y axis and strain is taken in the x axis. Strain is nothing but the relative deformation undergone by the body. So, initially in the region, elastic region, the body when subjected to some force, it changes its original shape and size. Once the force is removed, it comes back to its original shape and size. Hence, that region is called as elastic region. The yield stress is the stress value up to which the material behaves like an elastic material, or we even call it as elastic limit. The stress value for which the body regains its original shape and size on removing the force is called elastic limit. Beyond the yield stress, even a smaller change in stress, even a smaller force can bring about large deformation in the body, and after certain point as we see in the graph here, even we do not increase the stress, the body starts undergoing deformation. That region is called as plastic region. And if further, if the body is subjected to any stress, it will start breaking. As we see in the top figure, there is a fracture. The body is undergoing permanent breakage at one point, and a small increase in force will break the body, and the body will permanently deform, and it is called plastic. It will permanent deformation, as we have defined it as plasticity, the property of the body called plasticity. Hence, the body yields from elastic body to plastic body. It changes from elasticity to plasticity. Yes, this is the stress strain graph. Stress is plotted in the y axis, strain is plotted in the x axis. Strain is defined as the relative deformation, that is the ratio of change in shape or size to its original shape or size. In the region, elastic region, the body behaves as an elastic material. Even if you increase stress up to the value of yield stress, if you remove that stress acting on the body regains its original shape and size. And in this region, the Hooke's law is obeyed by the material. Beyond the elastic region, the body does not obey the Hooke's law, and that region is called plastic region. Here in this slide, we can see the three different types of stress. First one is the tensile stress, that is it changes the length of the body. The second one is the compressive stress, it changes the volume of the body, and the third one is the shearing stress, which changes the size, the shape of the body, that is area of the body. Brittle, as I told, brittle iron is a brittle metal, it needs more force to compress, whereas less force to stretch, that is shown in the figure here. And elastic materials, they undergo the changes. Once the force is removed, they come back to its original shape and size, whereas ductile material, they need very less compressive force to break, whereas they need very large force to stretch them, that is a ductile material. The two other definitions we have to look into is the Poisson's ratio and the compressibility. The Poisson's ratio, when a force is acting on a wire, we saw that the length of the wire goes on extending. Beyond certain point or beyond certain stress, there is a shrinkage of the wire, that is the radius of the wire goes on decreasing. The length of the wire goes on increasing, whereas at one particular point the radius of the wire goes on decreasing. So, we are coming across of two different types of strain taking place in this body. One is called the lateral strain, the other one is the longitudinal strain. The change in length, increase in length is called longitudinal strain, and the change in radius is called the lateral strain. The ratio of these two, that is the ratio of lateral strain to longitudinal strain, is what we call as Poisson's ratio, and it is denoted as sigma. The ratio of lateral strain to longitudinal strain is called as Poisson's ratio, and since it is a ratio, again we do not have any units or dimensional formula for Poisson's ratio. The next physical quantity is compressibility. How easily you can compress an object. If you take the two different balls of same material, one is hollow, the other one is solid, it is easy to compress a hollow ball compared to a solid ball, because the material, the molecules are compact and it is bulky in a solid ball compared to a hollow ball. So, the compressibility again depends on the modulus of the third type of modulus, that is bulk modulus, or we define compressibility as the reciprocal of the bulk modulus. If the material is more bulky, the compressibility is less. If it is less bulky, the compressibility is more. That is, if the body is solid, if you take two different objects of same material, the hollow material is easy to compress, whereas the solid material, that is the bulkiness of the material counts here, how easily we can compress or reduce the volume of an object. That quantity is called compressibility, and it is the reciprocal of the bulk modulus. Since the bulk modulus has the SI unit Newton per meter square, 1 by Newton per meter square is meter square per Newton, that is the SI unit of compressibility, and the dimensional formula is m minus 1 L plus 1 T plus 2 is the dimensional formula for compressibility. So, the other example for compressibility is the ductile material is easy to stretch, but difficult to compress, whereas the brittle material can easily be compressed, but difficult to stretch. Example, as I told, iron is easy to compress, but difficult to stretch, whereas steel is easy to stretch, but difficult to compress. So, that is the conclusion of the chapter, properties of solids. Thank you.